really obvious to know if you did it wrong. Get out of here, fly.
We got flies all over the fucking place. Son of a bitch. Get out of here, you fucking flies. There's a fly over the headlight, Tony. We got flies coming for us. Fuck. Get the fuck out of here, you flies. We got 3 flies, 5 flies. And if you will, make sure, if you will, we don't have that fly on the left side, on the passenger side, because that we don't have that in frame, but make sure we don't have any flies here. And we don't have any flies.
Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears, and we are working with what we've got on my 1990 Mazda Miata. I say that because this month I've had a couple of unexpected expenses, which unfortunately is going to mean I can't spend any more money on this for probably 3-4 more weeks at minimum. Fortunately, there's plenty of work that I can do in the meantime. If you've been following my journey so far, you saw that I de-pinkified the interior. That's a word now, by the way. I removed the pink paint from the door panels and from the center console and from the dashboard. It came out a little bit more glossy than I wanted it to, so I may revisit that, especially during this time where I have to kind of put the brakes on things financially. There's also plenty of work that I can do under the hood or where the hood should be. I'm probably going to do the brake master cylinder and clean up the bodywork underneath it and give that some paint so that it doesn't rust away on me. I can also clean the lifters. In my last video, or in one of my previous videos while I was tearing down the motor, I mentioned I didn't know if I was going to purchase new lifters or try to fix the lifters that I had. Well, I looked it up and new lifters are $18 a piece from Rock Auto, and that's probably the best deal I'm going to be able to get. At $18 a piece, I'll fix it myself. It's a pain in the ass, but I've got plenty of time on my hands, as opposed to spending, what, $230, somewhere around there, to buy new lifters. I can spend the time, which I have an abundance of right now, to clean the lifters that I have, and I can take you on that journey as well. There's plenty of YouTube videos talking about how to clean the lifters, so I'm essentially just, I'm not going to go into the technical details of it, but I'm going to take you on the journey of my experience with it and just kind of follow what other people have done and to talk about how well it came out or how big of a pain in the ass it was, because I'm expecting it to be just a total nightmare. But that's okay. All it is time. Some of the things I've done so far, you can see the new water pump, and I've put the new front main seal in and put the sprocket back on for the timing belt. That's about all I've done here. I put the new idlers on, realized that this idler did not come with a spring, so I get to dig in the trash and find the spring that I threw out. I took out the oil filter cooler because I wanted to replace the seal there. I figured since it's so easy to get to, I may as well just do it. This is the master cylinder that I was talking about. It looks fairly new, but it was leaking and it's caused a fair bit of corrosion down here and ruined the paint. So I've got to probably take the whole brake booster off so that I can have a clear shot at all of that paintwork there. I've got the brake parts over here in my parts refrigerator. It's a totally normal thing, right? Got the brake lines here, got the head gasket here, camshaft seals, spark plug wires, more brake lines, steel braided brake lines for the front, and the new master cylinder, timing belt here, thermostat here, and up in the parts freezer, I've got my lifters. These I had to made more of a mess than I thought it would. Okay. I guess I get to clean my parts freezer when I'm finished here. So I've labeled this exhaust, and this is the order which it came out. So I've labeled these, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see I've got the lifters laid out here. It turned out to be not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be, with the exception of this one lifter. I don't know what's going on here, but there's like a dent in the lifter. I don't think I want to use this. I think I might replace it. But other than that, they all look fine. I've got 2 more left that I'm going to do with you guys, just to show you the process that worked out for me. Some of the videos talked about soaking the lifters in dishwashing, soap. Some of the videos talked about drenching the lifters in dishwashing soap, and I just am not comfortable doing that. For one, the video that I saw where the guy did that, he just mixed them all up and mixed the lifters and all the little pieces up and just put them all back together. It may have worked out fine for him, and you know what? If that works out fine for you, good, great for you. I like to use the things that mechanics use in their shops when they're cleaning car parts. So I'm using carburetor cleaner. And the reason I'm using carburetor cleaner is because there's tiny little bits of rubber in here, and I don't want to dissolve those tiny little bits of rubber. I don't want to expand them. I don't want to do anything weird to them. And carb cleaner is how you clean car parts that have little bits of rubber in it. The carb cleaner does dissolve my gloves though, so that's kind of fun. Every time I clean one of these, it ends up being kind of a race to see how many lifters I can do before my gloves dissolve. But I'm down to the last 2, and I'm just going to show you how I did it. It actually was not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I got these tiny little vice grips, the needle nose vice grips. I thought I could try to do it with just needle nose pliers. I was absolutely wrong. I had to buy these in order to get this off. But it was $10, not a big deal, especially compared to $230 from getting new lifters. And the reason you need these is because sometimes they take a little bit of effort to pop out. Now, a little bit of oil came off on my glove. This one actually had more oil on it than they usually do. Some of them had more oil than others, and the oil was really dark. And I am cleaning them with carb cleaner over the trash can because I don't want to get carb cleaner sprayed all over me and my face, and if it's going to dissolve my gloves, it's going to do some nasty things to my hands. Now, real quick, I am dousing my gloves in the oil to kind of neutralize the carb cleaner so that my gloves don't dissolve. And I put a little bit of oil in the lifter. Again, this is something that I'm seeing differences depending on who's making the video, but this is what I'm doing, and we'll see if it works out. And I'm cleaning out each little bit and getting both oil, a little bit of oil inside of the little bits and in my gloves to stop them from dissolving. This is actually, I think, the first pair of gloves that I've noticed actively dissolving with carb cleaner, so maybe it's just these gloves. Okay, so I got all the little bits and pieces apart, and what I did was I had one lifter just kind of set aside, and it actually turned out to be the bad one. Set aside, not taken apart, until I really got a hang for how to put these things back together. So I got the one with the flat piece. This is the piece that sticks out at the bottom. And then I've got the little spring. I noticed that the spring doesn't seem to be tapered or anything, so I don't think it mattered which direction I put it in. And then I got this little thing, the little other side with a little nipple on it. And I stick that in and put a little bit of oil on it, and I put that in to the spring. It's really going to be really hard to show this on camera, but the spring just kind of, if you wiggle it a little bit, the spring will just stand right up on its straight up, and it'll be really easy. Put this other piece on top of it. Once it's on top, you just give it a few little squeezes just to make sure that it works. You know that it works, and then we're going to take the lifter cap, and we're just going to put it, line it up right on top, and stick it in this way. And you don't want to force it, but this one popped into place, and you can squeeze it up and down, no problem. And then you put it in the oil, and you want to squeeze it inside the oil a few times so that you can get some oil inside the lifter. And because these aren't going right on into the head, I'm putting them upside down on my bench. I'm probably going to have to move them several times to clean up the oil, but they're not going straight in, so I'm just going to put them upside down so that all the oil doesn't drain out. And I'm going to do the same thing with the last lifter. I'm probably just going to talk a little bit less. Alright, so that's it for the lifters. I'm probably going to move on now. I'm going to clean up my workbench a little bit, and I'm going to move on to removing the brake booster so I can get some paint on the bodywork underneath it that got ruined by the leak in the brake master cylinder. And we're going to talk very briefly about why I need to pump the brakes on spending on this Miata. It really does come down to this garage. So you can see here, this is just wood. I threw some primer on it to help block the sunlight and keep the garage a little bit cooler. You see I didn't do it back here. I've got to get this garage waterproof before the winter, which means I have to get windows. I had to buy 2 windows that were not cheap. You see here I have another open window and a door. So once I get the windows and the door, then I can put stucco paper across the entire garage. Stucco paper, which by the way is black, which is going to do wonders for the temperature inside the garage. I actually bought some paint, so I'm going to spray the stucco paper white again. And then I have to finish these stairs to get them waterproof. And then leading up to the second floor, we're going to put down a semi-permanent roofing material here. This is a material that will probably last 10 years. Hopefully, I don't need it to last that long at all. Hopefully, I'll only need it to last 2 years. But we're going to put down a semi-permanent roofing material to keep this garage waterproof and also preserve the integrity of the plywood. See here, there's a fresh coat of undercoating. That's because while there was no rust on the car, I wanted to keep it that way, so I put a fresh coat of undercoating in the wheel well. Once I do the coilovers, I'll shoot this area inside here. I've also got the brake line run. Now, I'm not entirely convinced that it should be run quite like this. I might need to loosen the nut, turn it more towards the source bracket. I will find that out when I turn the wheels after I do the other side. On the other side, I've done the same thing with the undercoating in the wheel well. More or less the same thing with the brake line. I haven't gotten the hard line in yet because I wanted to repair the bodywork up here, which was caused by brake fluid running down onto the body and dissolving the paint. Once I get the master cylinder, and I'm debating on whether or not to take the brake booster off. I guess it just depends on how much of a pain it is. Once I get that off, I'm going to shoot some paint in here. I'll probably try to clean up the rust a little bit more as much as I can. I've got Rust-Oleum red it's actually this color right here. So it matches the car well enough for painting parts of an engine bay. I'll shoot it in there so that this doesn't have any worry of rust once I get that taken care of. Alright, I removed the brake booster so that I could have access to the bodywork underneath it, and this is the first thing I noticed, there's a little bit of corrosion here, all from the brake fluid leak. This going on in here just makes me think maybe I should just replace it. Since I have it out, I don't know. I don't know if I want to reuse it or not. They're not terribly expensive. It came out with these 4 bolts. There's not a whole lot of talk of removing the brake booster out on the YouTubes. There was one other guy that really just said, oh, it's these 4 bolts, they're here, and didn't really talk about the experience itself. In principle, it's not that difficult, but in practice, there is something you got to know about it, and we'll get right to that. You see there are those 4 bolts. I took out this 5th one because I'm kind of stupid and wasn't exactly sure if that was actually bolted into the brake booster. But up here, this hole in the top right here that is above the steering column, this is actually kind of a pain in the ass to get to if you have this in the way. This thing was directly off to the right of it, and I didn't know that, I didn't know how to remove it until I simply just jammed my socket extension up in there and it fell off. And I realized after the fact that it's got these clips that make it so you can just push it straight off to the right. That's how you got, that's all you have to do in order to get to that bolt. It's still kind of a pain in the ass to reach, but you can take this off just by pushing it to the right, and it is really not a big deal. I thought that I broke it because I didn't know what I was doing, but it turns out I did exactly what I was supposed to do. I got lucky. This car kind of surprises me every time something like that happens. Let's take a look at the bodywork. You can see there was a little bit of paint that I wasn't able to clean away in order to repaint it. There isn't really, like, there's just a little bit of surface rust. This is going to come out just with a little more time with the wire brush, and then I can repaint it. I don't know if I really need to replace the clutch master cylinder. It does look like there's a little bit more paint peeling up underneath it, so I may have to remove it in order to clean all that up, but I also may not have to, because I can just stick the wire brush on the drill and get back there. Clean it up as best I could. This is what it looks like prior to spraying. I might hit this just one last time, just for giggles. But it looks pretty good. I'm using Rust-Oleum Sunrise Red. It's this color down here from the panel that I may replace someday. I'm just going to spray that up and we'll see what it looks like when we're done. Since I had to take the top down in order to get at the brake booster, let's take a look at the gauge cluster for documentation purposes. You see here, this is my new gauge cluster. 261,646 is the mileage. This is the one I took out of it, 197,084. I have not driven this car, obviously, since I put this gauge cluster in, so you can do the math here. It's going to be slightly lower miles than is indicated on the gauge cluster here. But, again, I don't see this as a really deprecating factor. This is just, you know, 197,000 miles versus 261,000 miles, to me, isn't that big of a difference. If it were 100,000 mile discrepancy on a low mileage car, or if I claimed that this was a lower mileage car than it actually is, that would be a real problem. But it's showing as higher mileage on the gauge cluster. That doesn't bother me. So that about caps it off for this video. I'm at a point where I need to spend more money before I can make more progress on this car, and unfortunately I'm out of money right now. So this car is just going to sit around for just a little bit longer while I get that all sorted out. It'll probably be 3 or 4 weeks, but I'm really happy with the progress so far, and I can't wait to start this thing back up for the first time.